Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation on reducing stormwater infrastructure with grass and gravel porous pavements. I hope you're in good health and spirits, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar. I'm your host, Jose Pablo George, or JP, the International Business Development Manager with Presto Geosystems. We manufacture industry-leading erosion control, stormwater management, and porous pavement products, all made in the upper Midwest of the United States. Through an extensive national and international distribution network, we offer technical and site support, as well as free project evaluation from our in-house design engineering team. Today's presentation will focus on reducing stormwater infrastructure with grass and gravel porous pavements. We're going to start with the understanding of some of the benefits of using a porous pavement system and how both rigid and flexible systems perform under varying traffic load conditions. We'll talk about both aggregate surfaces and vegetated or grassed surfaces for porous pavements and why you may choose one over the other. Finally, we're going to get into how porous pavements are capable of detaining stormwater runoff and helping you achieve green building goals on site. If there are any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Questions tab, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Thanks again for joining us. First, a little background on Presto. We worked with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to develop geocell technology in the late 1970s and have been innovating ever since. Our products have been used in over 200 countries and in every state of the United States. But we go beyond simply providing a product to helping you provide a complete solution. We operate in 3 product areas. Soil stabilization using our GeoWeb geocells, which can be used for load support, slope and channel protection, and constructing green retaining walls. Porous pavements, of which we have both vegetated and aggregate solutions, and lightweight reusable construction mats. Today we'll focus on reducing stormwater infrastructure with grass and gravel porous pavements. If you'd like information on any of our other solution sets, please see prestogeo.com or reply to the follow-up email to this presentation, and we'll gladly share additional resources with you. Now on to our focus topic of porous pavement. So a natural first question might be, why are porous pavements needed? Or how are they different than standard pavement surfaces we usually see? There are a number of great benefits to using a porous pavement for your project. Porous pavements are a class of solutions that address, in a cost-effective way, regulations that need to be met. After more than 50 years, the Clean Water Act continues to create the need for stormwater management for both quantity and quality as the primary federal law in the United States governing water pollution. While the Clean Water Act establishes the basic structure for regulating discharges of pollutants into the waters of the U.S. and regulating quality standards for surface waters, most states have developed non-point pollution regulations with specific targets, and some local regulations often require even more stringent standards if the project is near a protected wetland or water source. The EU Water Framework Directive establishes protection on inland surface waters, transitional waters, coastal waters, and groundwater, and it aims to prevent and reduce pollution, promote sustainable water use, protect and improve the aquatic environment, and mitigate the effects of floods and droughts. The Canada Water Act, German Federal Water Act, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act in India, and similar structures throughout other countries parallel these legal frameworks. Porous pavements are one way to meet these criteria while still performing in a structurally meaningful and long-lasting way. Another reason to choose porous pavement systems is because it's the best option for your project. Many locations have poor soil conditions, as better suited sites are becoming more scarce and land is at a premium. High stormwater management value is the desire to make the best use of valuable high-cost lands and reduce the need for stormwater ponds by increasing the porosity of your pavements. Porous pavement systems handle stormwater at the point of impact, percolating the water where it falls and avoiding conveyance pipes and structures that otherwise might be necessary. Sustainable solutions are popular with the public because of the high percentage of recycled materials, reducing landfilling of abundant recycled materials, and the ability to achieve green building credits. So there are a couple of different porous pavement options available. We'll start by talking about some of the more traditional options. These are probably better known. The options for porous pavements is to use a porous version of the traditional pavements, like concrete, asphalt, and paver blocks. These applications allow for normal traffic frequency use and have increased infiltration over their non-porous versions, which can help with stormwater requirements. Hard surface porous pavements act very similarly to their non-porous counterparts, but often suffer from durability challenges long term. The big difference between standard pavement and hard surface porous pavement is in the cross section. All three of these methods have deeper cross sections than a standard pavement section and require a choker or bedding course between the pavement and the open graded base layer. The choker layer is intended to be both the leveling layer for the surface pavement, ensuring a smooth and proper surface, and it's intended to provide the resistance to movement or differential settlement that could damage the surface. So it has an important function, but can be costly and time-consuming to install properly. I also have mentioned some durability challenges, as well as a few other significant drawbacks to using these traditional methods. Cost is one of the biggest factors, both during installation and over the lifetime of the project. During construction, these products need specialized materials to create the pavement and specially trained contractors that know how to properly install this type of system. There's a lot of long-term maintenance requirements as well. Regular deep cleaning, such as vacuuming and power washing, is required to reduce clogged areas, which happens often in high traffic areas. Resurfacing or replacement of lost material due to raveling, which occurs because of weak bonds between materials, is also common. And that choker course we just talked about, it actually impedes water flow, reducing the infiltration capacity of the system and leading to ponding at the surface. Kind of the opposite effect of what we're going for, right? So we want to find a way to fix those issues for a better way forward. Here at Presto Geosystems, we offer two different types of porous pavement systems, a flexible and a rigid option to best fit your needs. Instead of adaptations of existing pavements, our solutions are designed from the ground up to function as a porous pavement. So we're going to start off with our rigid porous pavement systems. There are two different surface types that can be used for our porous pavement systems: topsoil with vegetation or gravel for a stone surface. The rigid porous pavement systems work well with both options, and it's up to you to decide what you need for your site. The biggest difference between the two, besides looks obviously, is the amount of vehicle traffic they're able to withstand. With a vegetated system, vehicle traffic should be occasional. Think only a few times a week. This is because no matter how great a system is, grass just doesn't like to be driven on. Too much time getting crushed under cars will kill your grass. The system will still protect the root zone without any issues, but you won't have the nice green lawn you might have been hoping for, as the vegetation cannot reestablish between the traffic cycles. If your pavement is planning on seeing frequent or daily use, Aggregate infill is probably the way to go. We call it a non-bound aggregate because there are no glues, resins, or binders needed to hold the stone together, just the paver unit itself. There are two different paver units available depending on the infill type chosen. The first is for a vegetated system, and we call it geoblock. The geoblock system is a rigid porous paver unit, meaning that the panels are not meant to bend or twist. This rigid nature means that a thinner cross-section is possible and is a stronger system compared to systems that are made of textiles or of traditional pavement materials like concrete. An important aspect of the geoblock units is the large amount of open space in the bottom of each cell, which allows for full root penetration so the grass surface is thick and uniform. The cells are filled with topsoil and then vegetated, so grass grows above the cell walls. So you don't see any plastic material, and the paver unit itself is protecting the root zone. We call the aggregate system GeoPave, which I know may cause confusion with the vegetated geoblock name, so I'll try to help you keep track. The GeoPave units are similar to the geoblock units with the same rigid paver characteristics, but have specific features needed for performance with aggregate infill. The main difference to highlight is the monolithic mesh bottom. This is a molded in place mesh on the underside of the paver unit rather than the large openings we just saw. The mesh keeps the stone infill from migrating under the unit, and the integrated nature assists in the overall rigidity of the paver unit. This lattice bottom spreads the load similar to a snowshoe, so the wheel loads do not create ruts due to high volume of vehicles. These units were designed specifically to work with different types of infill material and create the best possible pavement section for your needs. We also offer a flexible porous pavement system called GeoWeb. This is a geocell, which may be a term you've heard before. Flexible porous pavement can support the same loads as the rigid paver products, but often require a deeper cross-section to carry heavy vehicles. The flexible nature of the GeoWeb system is beneficial for areas with potential for settlement, such as wetland areas. The GeoWeb system is similar to the rigid systems we just looked at in that it holds and confines your material in place to create a drivable surface. The difference between the flexible and rigid systems is that with the rigid systems, you're driving directly on the paver units, while with the flexible system, you're driving on the infill material. So it's much more important to choose a high quality material when implementing a flexible system. You obviously aren't going to get ruts from the rigid paver units, but you also won't get them from the flexible system either. The GeoWeb panels create a platform for vehicles to drive on, and by holding the material in place, ruts and wheel wells won't form. The GeoWeb system is our version of GeoCell technology and consists of two main attributes. The first is the cell or container size, and the cells come in three diameters: small, medium, large, with various cell heights. And these dimensions depend on your project details and vehicle loading requirements, and we can help you determine which is the most appropriate for your specific job. There are also 5 different section lengths to best fit your project needs. The ultrasonically welded seam, where all the connecting points are, is important to the function of a geocell, and the stronger your seam strength, the better the performance of the geocell will be. These strong seams allow for heavier infill material, steeper or taller slopes if needed, and better lifetime performance. GeoWeb is produced using high-quality virgin high-density polyethylene resin for consistently strong welds, while also maintaining semi-rigid ductile properties, high stress crack resistance, and overall toughness and long-term durability in the environment. The second main attribute of the GeoWeb system is the infill, or what you put into the container. The flexible GeoWeb system offers the choice between a vegetated surface and a stone surface. You can also have concrete as your infill material, but then you have an impervious surface, and that's not why we're here today. If you're curious about this choice, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. An important benefit of the system is that even a low quality aggregate, sand, or certain salvage material can be used to infill the cells. Using that salvaged aggregate or sand can save significant amounts of money on material and hauling costs. We can also eliminate fines when desired, since the cells provide the confinement and aid compaction of cohesionless soils. So without the fines, you can significantly improve drainage and let water flow freely through the system, preventing pore pressure buildup and global failure of your cross section. This can also be considered a truly porous pavement. So the three primary elements of any geocell system, cell walls, internal junctions, and connectors, must perform uniformly as a complete system. GeoWeb is manufactured using a proprietary blend and will retain its durability for greater than 100 years, with lab testing indicating 149 without degradation, even at full exposure to the elements. We stand behind these numbers so you can deliver certainty in the solution and build with quality materials you can trust. GeoWeb is made from high stability inert materials and are your permanent stabilization solution. They'll not degrade, leach, or release microplastics into the environment. GeoWeb is manufactured with premium high-density polyethylene resin with no fillers, polymer alloys, or compatibilizers. And our base resin is the same material used in environmental applications like geomembranes and other environmental barriers to protect against the spread of harmful toxins. Our products have been third-party tested by accredited geosynthetics labs, confirming long-term stability against environmental factors such as weathering and oxidation. GeoWeb and our accessories are 100% made in the USA under strict quality assurance and environmental control processes. It's easy to be skeptical of a flexible material claiming to support heavy vehicle loads. Here we have a comparison of two areas of the same container yard, and you see there's a huge difference in the aftermath of a single pass from a transport truck. This difference only gets more and more pronounced as time goes on. So yes, the system really does work. Check out prestogeo.com to see some of our case studies and videos in action. One of the biggest questions we get is about cost. No surprise there, especially if this is a new technology for you or your area. Having an idea of how much the GeoWeb system costs compared to other stabilization techniques is important. So here we have a basic comparison for the GeoWeb system for a load support application, in this case, a gravel surface road. The comparison shows the difference in both price and cross-section depth for an aggregate only, unreinforced section, a section using geogrids and geotextiles, and then two sections showing the use of the GeoWeb system, one with aggregate and one with salvaged on-site materials as the infill. So we see the GeoWeb system is both thinner and cheaper than other methods, significantly cheaper when on-site material is beneficially reused. Of course, your mileage may vary in terms of excavation and stone costs, but this is a good starting point for comparison. So we've talked about the characteristics that make rigid and flexible porous pavement units special. With these in mind, we can now talk about the benefits of choosing porous pavements over hard surface pavements. All of the products offer significant storage of stormwater in the cross-section as it moves into the groundwater system. Because the water infiltrated through the system, there is minimal sheet runoff at the surface, reducing flooding potential on or around the pavement. The aggregate surface pavements, like the GeoPave system shown here, have a high percentage of open area and utilize highly permeable open graded aggregate infill. So the stormwater infiltrates exceptionally fast. The vegetated surface pavements, like the GeoBlock system, help keep the topsoil loose and protected from compaction, allowing water to infiltrate faster than any typical vegetated area on site. Other paver systems that are geotextile fabric based percolate much more slowly and usually leave water ponding at the surface, which defeats the purpose of a porous pavement. Pavements that allow water to flow through the surface into a base of open graded base course can reduce the requirements for stormwater storage at the surface. The rate of infiltration of both the porous pavement material and the subgrade soils, along with the porosity of the base material used, determines how much surface storage is required. It's possible to reduce or even eliminate the need to above ground storage if you can store that stormwater underground. See additional resources at prestogeo.com or reach out to our in-house engineering team and we can help work through some calculations to see what's best for your project needs. If your native subgrade has poor infiltration, or if you're required to direct the water to a central location, collection pipes can be installed in the open graded or engineered filled base course. The pipes can have perforations to collect water and can be sloped to maintain velocity without affecting the surface grade. Providing a wrapped perforated pipe is typically not recommended unless the base is clean. It may be better to provide a geotextile filter around the perimeter of a drainage trench with the pipe encapsulated with stone. The main thought is to prevent clogging, and the method used on a specific design will be based on base material and your anticipated use. Again, reach out to our engineering team if you would like some help with determining the best solution for your needs. Our vegetated GeoBlock and aggregate GeoPave pavers have a high crush strength because of their rigid and shared wall connections. Pavers with enough strength allow for less base requirements to support loads, reducing the potential cross sections by up to 67%. The surface of the porous pavement resists concentrated rutting as the load is dispersed across the rigid pavement, so no wheel ruts or sunken drive lanes are going to form and cause failure points. The units are strong enough to drive on unfilled, which makes installation both faster and easier. If a thinner cross section is important, these products would be the way to go. Fabric-based systems obviously have no internal strength and easily warp under vehicle loading. One of the functions of a porous pavement system is to reduce the stress that's transferred to the soil by vehicle traffic. So a great application of these products is to use them as tree root protection, like this hotel did in southern Illinois. By laying these systems over buried tree roots as close to the tree trunks as possible, you reduce the stress that puts pressure on those roots, potentially damaging them and killing the tree. If you have trees that need to stay in place, these systems are a great way to get your vehicle access roads like this driveway, which used GeoPave to create a stone driveway around existing vegetation the owners wanted to keep in place. The shared wall system and strong connections create a framework that's highly resistant to movement or breakage from vehicle turning stresses and torsional loads. So the rigid GeoPave and GeoBlock systems are not just straight drive lanes, they are full service vehicle areas, allowing for starting, stopping, turning, and everything in between. The panels are not going to be damaged from any normal vehicle activities, even from the heaviest trucks or semis. The flexible GeoWeb system holds the infill material in place so that twisting movements from tires won't displace the material and everything stays where it's supposed to. This parking lot at the Citadel in South Carolina utilized the GeoPave system to great effect along the coastline. The rigid and flexible paver units align well with existing asphalt or other traditional pavements. Here we see a car dealership parking lot addition in Brooklyn, New York. The paver units come in rectangles but can be field cut to handle curves, existing structures such as manholes, and other obstacles that are common on site. Aggregate GeoPave and vegetated GeoBlock units, or the flexible GeoWeb panels working in concert with hard surface pavement, are so porous that they can handle sheet runoff from adjacent impervious parking areas. This is a great way to add additional parking spaces while still meeting stormwater requirements on site, with no need to create more stormwater infrastructure such as drainage, swales, or ponds. The cell walls of the GeoPave unit are meant to be visible and were designed with a herringbone pattern similar to a paver stone aesthetic. Additionally, the infill stone color can be varied to create the sense of separation useful for walkways, parking lots, or road shoulders. The GeoBlock units allow for full vegetation growth with a more natural look, so the cell walls are not visible through the grass. GeoWeb panels are completely covered so that no plastic material is seen, just your infill material. So whatever look you're going for on your site, you can achieve with these products without the unfinished look common to porous concrete or porous asphalt. A wellness retreat in Door County in northern Wisconsin used the GeoPave system to help achieve LEED Gold certification on their site, due in part to the stormwater storage utilized with the system. And this office building in Florida used the GeoBlock system as a fire access lane while still looking like a normal lawn area. Reducing a site's overall environmental impact can help meet green infrastructure, low impact development, or green building goals for building in protected or densely populated areas. It can also help you meet stormwater requirements that limit the amount of hard surface in your landscape plans, which is becoming an increasingly common requirement from cities and townships. This is something we experience all across the US and are absolutely willing to help you achieve for your specific projects. There are a number of constructability benefits as well. All of the product units are lightweight enough for a single person to carry two at a time, and the connectors are fast to install. A great thing about using the rigid paver is that infill placement is fast, as tracked or rubber-tired construction vehicles can drive on GeoPave or GeoBlock units when unfilled, as we see here. Paving crews and specialized paving equipment are not necessary, and oftentimes landscape crews are all that's required. So you can save on equipment and labor costs and get these systems in the ground quickly without waiting for cure times or sequence construction limits. All of our porous pavement systems are low maintenance, no need for vacuuming or unclogging, and no need to constantly be replacing the stone surface. By having the paver units or GeoWeb panels locked together and using basic anchoring methods, you can just place it and forget it. Customizing your system also helps with maintenance when you keep people driving where they're supposed to be driving. Bright yellow and blue delineators are available for parking lanes or other marking, so you can make the space work for your needs. Other common extras such as parking stops are also easy to install in any of our porous pavement systems, like this porous parking lot in Nashville, Tennessee. All three options, both rigid and flexible, are capable of supporting very heavy vehicle loads, including emergency access vehicles like fully loaded fire trucks. So they work well as emergency access lanes, like at Newman University in Wichita, Kansas. The center median between existing sidewalks was reinforced with the geoblock vegetated system to be able to allow vehicle access as needed and otherwise look like a regular lawn people can walk on. Being able to use these systems even in these critical areas that need extra reinforcement really shows how useful porous pavement systems can be. Presto Geosystems has created a free, easy-to-use tool to determine the right porous pavement system for your specific project and site conditions. A cross-section of the system is created based on the inputs and system requirements. And there's a way to determine exactly how deep the base course needs to be for a certain amount of stormwater storage. The tool is available on our website, prestogeo.com, and our engineering team is always happy to give advice or expertise on designing a porous pavement system for your site's particular requirements. So this is a quick look at what the Design Assistant tool provides you. It's a very basic cross-section, but can be very helpful during the beginning of the design process. If needed, there are additional calculations and CAD details that the engineering team here can provide. But this is a good first step when talking to regulators or to show that there's stormwater storage with this type of system. It works with all of our porous pavement products and is an easy tool to help determine which may be most appropriate for your site needs. So let's move on to some case studies showing how these systems work in the real world. Let's start with the flexible GeoWeb system. Here we have a few photos of the walking trail built through Nahant Marsh in Iowa. The community came together to install this walking trail through a marshy area, doing everything themselves, which shows how easy it is to install the system, even when you're not a specialty contractor. Because this was in a marshy area, not interrupting water flow was critical. Rainwater can easily flow vertically through the system, but marshy wetlands water can also flow horizontally through the panels because of all the perforations within the system. So water flow is not interrupted in any direction. The GeoWeb panels were filled with stone to allow water to flow through and into the marsh without creating areas of runoff or non-infiltration like an asphalt road would have. This way, the impact of the trail on the natural environment is minimized and people still get a clean, stable area to use for recreation. You can't drive on the unfilled panels without damaging them, but you can get right on there once the stone is in place, even if you haven't filled the whole area yet. That can be very helpful during construction. It's easy to use either machinery or manual labor to fill the GeoWeb cells, and it'll be the same with the GeoPave and GeoBlock rigid porous pavement systems, as we'll see in a bit. The overall depth of the cross-section is pretty variable with the GeoWeb system, since the panels come in a few different depths and a base layer may be required if expected loading is large. The GeoWeb system usually requires the most excavation of any of our products, so that's something to keep in mind when thinking about which one might be right for your site's needs. Let's take a closer look at the aggregate GeoPave porous pavement system next. Here we have a typical cross-section of the GeoPave system. The GeoPave is a fixed 2-inch depth, so the depth of the overall system depends more on the amount of open graded base course required. There are a variety of factors that decide the depth of your base course, but usually there's a 2-inch minimum required for most scenarios. Additionally, depending on the native subgrade soil, a geotextile separation layer may be required. Note there is no need for a choker or bedding course beneath the GeoPave unit, So there's not going to be any layer that limits the stormwater infiltration of the system. Your infiltration rate depends on the aggregate infill chosen. The biggest factor in determining base depth is the strength of the soil, expressed as the California bearing ratio, or CBR, of the soil. The higher the ratio, the stronger the soil. The strength of the GeoPave system is enough that even for the highest load rating from AASHTO H25 loading, which is heavy fire trucks, there is a low base depth requirement, only 6 inches, compared to up to 14 inches with geotextile-based systems. It's important to note that the table shows minimum depth requirements, and the depth of the base can be increased when additional stormwater storage is required. So if you want to use the GeoPave porous pavement system for on-site stormwater detention, for example, you would add to the base layer. There are a wide variety of uses for the GeoPave system, including fire and utility lanes, site access roads, road shoulders for runoff reduction, trails and walkways that allow for ADA compliant design, and much more. Unlike the GeoPave units, which are rigid, geotextile paver systems, or rolled systems because they come rolled like a fabric, can have some problems due to not having common cell walls, or by allowing the stone infill to get under the system, causing uplift. Both of these issues are addressed in the design of the GeoPave system with its rigid cell walls and integrated mesh bottom that we discussed. So just be aware that because the system says it allows stormwater infiltration, does not mean it's going to work well or be appropriate for your project needs. So on to another case study, shall we? In Antioch Pike in Tennessee, a cell tower area was located on a slight hill so stormwater would run off. This project, originally from 2013, required a porous pavement system to manage stormwater on site and help reduce runoff. The project owners also wanted to keep the maintenance requirements low. The construction area was limited, and there was no space for stormwater detention ponds to be built. Because this project was primarily about stormwater retention, the open graded base course was quite deep, 9 inches of stone, to be able to hold up to 3 inches of water during storm events. Standard lightweight construction equipment was used, no need for specialty equipment, and the crew, which had no prior experience installing GeoPave units, was able to achieve an installation rate of 1,200 square feet a day, including the excavation. The U-clip connectors are easy to install, and it's apparent here where they need to be placed. Some of the cell walls are half height, and those half height walls line up between paver units, so contractors know exactly where the clips are needed. The clips can be installed by a single worker without needing any electrical equipment. Then a small excavator or front end loader is a great option for placing the stone infill. And here the cell tower pad after construction. Because of the stormwater retention at its base, no additional detention pond was required, which is great for areas without that space to spare. If an above ground detention pond had been installed, there would have been a significant amount of excavation required, so this was also a great compromise between function and environmental concerns. And here's the access road and pad about a year after installation, still looking good, performing well, with little maintenance required. Now, years later, still in function and still holding up well. Again, minimum to no maintenance long term. Some recommended tips for keeping the geopaved pavement in good shape include keeping the lot clear of organics, such as fallen leaves, by raking or leaf blowing, and making sure snowplow blades are kept about an inch above the geopaved units. I know placing porous pavements in cold weather or snowy conditions is a concern for many regulators, so we have quite a bit of information available on our website answering a lot of the common questions we see, or you can contact us directly and we'd be more than happy to help alleviate your concerns. We are based in Wisconsin, so used to that freeze-thaw cycle and cold weather. We'll now focus on the GeoBlock porous pavement system. Here we have a typical cross-section of the GeoBlock system, and the GeoBlock comes in two depths, 1.2 and 2 inches. The depth of the overall system also depends on the amount of base course required. Topsoil or sod is placed in the cells, and the roots reach down into the base. The base course is a unique mix of topsoil and open graded aggregate, which allows enough topsoil to promote the root growth with the aggregate supporting your loading. We call this engineered base. The uses for GeoBlock grass pavers are similar to the GeoPave system, but grass pavements are meant to be occasional use pavements. Fire and utility lanes, access roads, special event or overflow parking for parks, churches, stadiums, etc. Basically anywhere you do not anticipate vehicle traffic every single day. The engineered base acts the same as it does for the GeoPave system, with higher loads requiring more base. The deeper 2-inch GeoBlock 5150 unit can have shallower base depths. So if having a thin cross section is important, that's probably the way to go. Thin cross sections may be required if there are shallow utilities that need to be avoided, or if excavating costs are too great. And again, the table shows minimum depth requirements. The depth of base can be increased when additional stormwater storage is required. There are geotextile-based vegetated systems as well, and they suffer from several problems. The fabric systems tend to rut in areas of soft soil, and because they can warp due to vehicle loading, those ruts just get deeper over time. These systems usually require the infill to be sand, not topsoil, and it's not hard to imagine the difference in grass growing in sand versus nutrient-rich topsoil. And we have some case studies for GeoBlock as well. This house was experiencing septic issues, and the yard needed to be replaced to fix things. The owner wanted to create additional parking spaces for guests as well, but had run out of room for a traditional driveway. So they decided to use the GeoBlock system and kill two birds with that one stone. The homeowner decided to do all of the installation work themselves, which is absolutely possible with our rigid systems. Installation is a simple, straightforward process. The GeoBlock panels were laid directly on the cleared subgrade. No base layer was required because the expected vehicle loading was quite low, just passenger cars or pickup trucks. The GeoBlock panels were then filled in with the excavated soil, saving on material costs, and ensuring that grass would be able to grow in that area. The panels were laid in a herringbone pattern, which is recommended when there's going to be multi-directional traffic or lots of turning and movement, as is common in parking areas. Then the whole area was hydroseeded, which provides complete coverage of the area with seeds and nutrient-rich food to help healthy grass grow. You can also pre-mix seeds into the topsoil before placing in the panels for a simpler installation. The type of grass chosen isn't important to the function of the GeoBlock system, So feel free to choose whatever will work best with your local climate and give you the look you're going for. A few weeks after completion, the grass is fully grown in and completely camouflaging the geoblock panels. The area still functions as a septic field because the geoblock panels help minimize vehicle loads in the area and tires are not tearing up a potentially saturated surface. You would normally never want to allow parking on septic fields, so this is a great way to add more space without compromising on function. Maintenance of the grass pavement is similar to maintaining any grass surface. Your standard lawnmower will do the trick. The Potawatomi were constructing a powwow area and were looking to create an area for parking trailers nearby. The ground was very soft clay that often caused heavy trailers to get caught and bogged down. Because this is in a wilderness area, the tribe was looking for a more natural look than an asphalt parking lot. The system was installed in October of 2019 so that everything was in before the snows came. Ground was leveled off and the GeoBlock 5150 panels were placed. And again, laid in a herringbone pattern, which is recommended when there's going to be multi-directional traffic or lots of turning and movement, as is common in trailer parking areas. The engineered base was 2 inches, which satisfied the requirements based on the expected vehicle loading. The cells were then filled with local topsoil. And this was the final look at the end of installation. All the panels filled with nutrient-rich topsoil, which will allow for full grass growth come spring. The panels are visible now, but will be completely covered once grass is in there. And in the meantime, during the winter months, the system can be driven on and used as needed. Once full grass growth is there, the lawn can be maintained with standard lawnmowers or landscaping maintenance. So in summary, today we've covered the GeoPave and GeoBlock rigid porous pavement systems and the flexible GeoWeb GeoCell system, and detailed the many advantages they have over traditional hard surface pavements. Benefits such as stormwater management, high vehicle load capacities, and aesthetic aggregate or vegetated infill are some of the great aspects of using porous pavements. The engineering team here at Presto Geosystems works closely with landscape designers and engineers, offering a free project evaluation service for each porous pavement project. We'll analyze your site-specific data and offer a recommendation that will meet your project needs. I would also like to introduce you to the new web-based software, Presto Geo P3, where you can plan projects yourself within this portal. This software offers a suite of geotechnical calculation tools designed to support engineers, contractors, and project owners in completing their value engineering evaluations using GeoWeb GeoCells, GeoBlock, and GeoPave porous pavements. Check out the software at prestogeop3.com. We deliver quality in over 40 years of expertise, guaranteeing that each shipment meets or exceeds our specs so you can deliver certainty and build with materials you can trust. No disclaimers or concerning fine print. We've also made it faster and easier for you to obtain your PDH certificates. With our webinar dashboard, you can easily view our library of webinars and download PDH certificates for on-demand webinars completed. Your webinar dashboard will keep a record of on-demand webinars along with the PDHs earned. Please note that certificates for live webinars are managed separately from that on-demand webinar dashboard. So you won't find your certificate from today in there, but you will receive an email from GoToWebinar within the next 24 hours containing a download link to obtain your PDH certificate. In 2 to 3 days, you'll also receive a separate email from Presto Geosystems with more information about accessing the on-demand webinar dashboard and some other helpful resources. If you do not receive either of the previously mentioned emails, please check your spam folder and reach out to us, info@prestogeo.com. And that's the presentation. I want to thank you for attending and remind you can send questions to us at any time at info@prestogeo.com and go to prestogeo.com for a wealth of information. Don't forget to view our YouTube videos found by clicking on the YouTube icon in the upper right corner of your webpage. Again, a quick housekeeping note, as an attendee today, you'll receive that PDH certificate within a day, then a follow-up email from Presto Geosystems with those links and resources, along with a link to this recorded webinar. Next, I'll answer your questions. If you have any questions, please put them into the questions tab. But if I don't get to your question, or if one occurs to you later, you can respond to that follow-up email and we'll be happy to answer and help with any project recommendations. Thank you again for joining us today. All right, first question. Is there a list of localities that have approved these systems? Many requirements are state specific as well as local ordinances. It's best to reach out to us and let us know where your project is located, and we can connect you to our local distributors who have worked to get this into specifications and can deal well with local ordinances. There are also many case studies and additional resources that may be from your area. So please reach out to us, let us know where your project is located, and we can follow up accordingly and connect you to our local agents. Next question, is blowing dust a problem? Most of our systems work well to contain and confine the infill in all stages of installation and certainly beyond. So as you're infilling the geoblock and placing that topsoil, if it's very windy, there might be dust, but after that installation, everything should be contained, and it's typically not an issue. With the other systems, GeoPave is gravel filled, or aggregate filled, I should say. No dust problem there, especially if you're using clean stone. And with the GeoWeb, again, it depends on your infill, but after installation, also not an issue there. Next question, what is the average porosity of the systems? That depends entirely upon the type of infill that you have. Each one of them, the GeoWeb, GeoBlock, and GeoPave, have an open bottom that is not going to impede your infiltration rates, certainly nothing noticeably. So all of those requirements and calculations for porosity will depend on what you put into those containers. If you have something specific in mind, again, we can help run those calculations for you. Otherwise, I mentioned a few tools available on our website, prestogeo.com, that can help you run the calcs and work through those scenarios on your own if you wish. Next question, how does this technology perform in frozen ground conditions and frost heave situations? very well. We have a number of installations that are in those colder climates and have to do with frost heaves. I mentioned a few technique tips, such as making sure your plow blades are raised up about an inch over the system. Beyond that and the clearing of the organic matter, little else needs to be done as a special caretaking. Next question, are the rigid pavers shipped as mats? So the shipment of our GeoBlock and our GeoPave, they are stacked on a pallet and palletized and shipped as pallets, typically on a truck. So they're stacked a bit like a Jenga tower in that they interlock and interweave and are shipped very efficiently. Next question, can you provide construction details we can use to develop standards handbooks for municipal ordinances? As a municipal government agency, we cannot require the use of a specific brand, but we can set standards targeted to a particular system. We are absolutely happy to help with that and can indeed provide all of those. Our design tab of prestogeo.com has most of that already available for download. We have CSI specs, ARCAT, CAD, and more, as well as a long product specification and spec summaries. Please respond to the follow-up email coming, and we can work to your particular needs and ordinances. But yes, we are happy to help provide those details and have done so in the past. Next question is also asking about snow removal. The biggest concern is making sure the plow blade is raised slightly so that the blade doesn't impact the plastic of the paver system. Beyond that, no additional requirements. Next question, what remediation measures are required when a spill occurs over these devices, such as within parking lots? Many local ordinances and state-specific measures would apply. The units themselves can be replaced, easily swapped in and out, depending on the size of the spill. Many times the spilled area is contained within the unit itself, such as GeoWeb acts as a containment and is often part of sediment capping systems. So I guess it depends on what is spilled and how much of it. If you need to remove the area, the panels can be cut out and replaced and joined to their piers. If you have something specific in mind, please reach out to us if it's something more detailed required beyond that. There's another question regarding bearing capacity for these units. It depends. They can go over very soft soils, especially the rigid pavers, the GeoBlock and the GeoPave. There are different base requirements depending on that CBR or the bearing capacity strength, as well as the anticipated vehicle loading. Again, up to heavy fire truck loading, no problem. So it really depends on the type of loading and the subgrade strength for what's required for the system in the base. One question is comparing the GeoBlock and GeoPave to GeoGrids and other gravel systems, and will they lose permeability over time? and what's the maintenance like to fix it. So the GeoPave, for example, what you'll need to do is clear the organic material, such as leaf, like fallen leaves and leaf shrapnel, rake it out or blow it out. Beyond that, they will not clog, like some of the first examples of traditional porous pavements we mentioned. So there's no extreme maintenance measures necessary like vacuuming or power washing. Next question, how does the gravel-based system handle mounted brushes for snow removal? That's a great question. Just like a plow, you'll want to raise it up enough so that it's not striking the actual unit. The brush might remove some of the infill that would have to be replaced gradually over time, depending on how hard or deep you brush it. But again, as long as you keep that up so it's leaving the infill where it is, it's typically not an issue. More questions on freeze thaw. Check out some of our case studies. We have quite a few in those colder climates and with freeze thaw cycles. Some of them I even mentioned in our presentation today from Wisconsin, for example. Next question, are there problems with weeds coming up through the porous pavements? No more than typical with your pavements. So if you have the vegetated version, you'll have to tend those in your GeoBlock as you would your typical lawn care needs. If you're talking about the GeoPave and the gravel system, likewise, just pluck them or spray them or burn them like you would typically do for a gravel lot. One question, how frequently does stone need to be added to the porous pavement systems due to snow plowing, etc.? Very little maintenance, depends on frequency of traffic, frequency of plowing, plowed depth. I would say low maintenance and just a tending, maybe every couple years, a slight top dressing if it gets constant traffic. You can check out some of our longer term case studies on the website, and some of them talk about maintenance or lack of maintenance over time. Have GeoBlocks or other products been successfully used in lieu of hardwood timber mats for pipeline construction? We actually have a different product that was shown way at the start of, we mentioned 3 product areas, the GeoWeb, the porous pavements, and then the construction mats. The construction mats are actually used in lieu of the timber mats. They have very low cost comparatively and can support those heavy loading, H25 loading of either wheeled or tracked vehicles. So check out the GeoTerra mats as an option. Otherwise, respond to the follow-up email and we'll be happy to send you some additional resources. Do these satisfy ADA requirements? Yes. They are a no barrier access and can be used with crutches, canes, high heels, wheelchairs, etc. No problem. Next question, what is the recommendation for sod installation to ensure a level surface since vehicle routes will be compressing the sod? That's a great question. There is a difference between a grass or hydroseed installation of GeoBlock and a sod installation. The biggest difference is that you'll want to hard brush out the topsoil so it's slightly dished before placing the sod. That's it. Our installation guide speaks to that, and we have some videos that show it. But if those don't suffice and you want to see further examples beyond what you see at prestogeo.com or our YouTube channel, again, respond to that follow-up email, and we're happy to share some additional examples. There are so many more questions, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and engagement. Everything from how to cut the paver units to installing drainage pipes to typical road cross sections, stormwater volumes, and so many more. I do thank you for your participation today, and have to end it here as we're well over our time already. We will follow up to those questions we didn't answer with the follow-up emails, so please look forward to those. And sorry we didn't get to your question today if it's one that I didn't get a chance to answer. But thank you for joining our presentation on porous pavements. Please check out prestogeo.com for more resources as well as forthcoming webinar presentations. Thank you, take care, and be well. Bye-bye.